name is skye-jane and I'm a history and politics student at Oxford and also a self-proclaimed reader. However, I have a pretty bad confession to make. I'm currently 4 books behind my reading goal, and I actually lost my love of reading during my first year. However, I knew this is a common experience and many people wish they could read more. I think I'm pretty good at getting out of reading slumps as somebody who's consistently read over 30 books for the last 3 years. Here are my tips for getting out of a reading slump. Tip number 1, start embarrassingly small. I'm talking not just small books, but books that almost feel too easy to read. I would suggest finding a book that you could complete in just 1 day. I would highly recommend this book. You can get through it in 1 day. It's Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, but it is a bit dense. So another one you can go for is The Stranger or The Outsider by Albert Camus, which is also an excellent read. So find a book that you can finish in just 1 day, a really short book, just to kind of and get yourself momentum, because momentum is really important in reading. Or if you don't like that and you want something lighter, you can try Richmond Osman's Thursday Murder Club or I Want to Die But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki, and those are 2 really quite easy reads that don't require much brain power. So try and find a book that you can either finish in 1 day or one that is really easy and not mentally taxing, or better, both. When I was in a slump this summer, I picked up Down and Out in Paris by George Orwell. And the thing about this book is I knew I'd enjoy it, and I know I'm saying this rather seriously while I talk into a spoon. The book is essentially George Orwell cosplaying as being poor, and very different from 1984, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the shortest book ever, but if it's an author you already know you enjoy, that can also really help. Tip number 2, set a target. Once you've gathered some momentum, and momentum is everything, it's time to get intentional. So by setting a target, I don't mean telling yourself that you're going to read 10 million books within the next 10 days. I mean, set something like this. So I wrote a summer reading list of different books that I want to read, though let's just say I've only actually read one of them on there so far, Sapiens, which as a matter of fact actually is my favourite book I've read this year so far. So I would highly recommend Sapiens as well. I didn't make this list because I wanted pressure. It's more to give me a direction, kind of ideas of what I know I actually like reading. But you don't have to adhere to this list. Mainly why these haven't been ticked off is actually because I've been reading other books. I'm reading this book right now called Big Magic, which is about creativity, and I've never even thought about reading a book about creativity before. So yeah, set a list, set a direction, but don't be wedded to that direction. So a summer reading list can really help, but also if it's autumn, write an autumn reading list, or if it's just books that people keep recommending to me that I haven't gotten around to. You can also visit a bookshop and ask them for book recommendations. That can be really helpful if you're lost. I always look to my favourite YouTubers. I really like listening to recommendations by either Unjaded Jade or Ali Abdaal, who I'm just a massive fan of, but you can probably ask ChatGPT at this point. And then once you have your list, this is crucial, you need to go out into the world and you need to purchase a physical copy of a book. No, not on Amazon, not online. Walk to a bookshop, purchase your book, sit down, get a coffee, and kind of romanticize your life. Make it Instagram worthy if it helps you. Create a little book nook in your house, buy a new bookmark, buy a new highlighter or pen that you use to annotate your books. Anything that you know that in the process of reading you really love and kind of will connect you back to that experience that you used to have of reading, it will be really helpful. Tip number 3 is to read your way. If you don't like physical books, and maybe actually it might be better for you to carry Kindle around, very slim, slick, and you can order any book within 5 seconds and it uploads. But if you can't bring yourself a tool to pick up a physical book or an e-reader, I would highly recommend audiobooks. Do on the go whilst you're walking to the shop, whilst you're waiting in line, whilst you're waiting for a train, whilst you're sitting on public transport. I've encountered lots of people who have been very pretentious about audiobooks. I understand reading a paper book, a hard copy book, is a different experience, but I use them for books I normally wouldn't read, like languages. For example, I've been listening to Paul Noble's audiobook on how to learn French. I highly recommend BookBeat instead of Audible, whereas Audible only allows you to have 1 book per month. BookBeat allows you to have 40 listening hours per month, and it comes with a 60-day free trial. It's a new app that I found. Tip number 4, and my final tip, is to identify as a reader. So you're inevitably going to have times where you can't read as much and things get really busy. And the difference between you continuing on the trajectory where you don't read and you picking back up the book and trying to get out this slump, which I can see you are here now doing right now, which shows that you want to be getting out the reading slump, is identifying as a reader. If you read anything, if you read 1 page a day, if you read 10 pages a day, you are a reader. If you identify as a reader, you'll make time for it. So for example, next year, I'm literally going to schedule in blocks where I read, which are blocked out in my weekend for reading, where there is no Oxford reading. It's my own personal reading, because I know that is something I find really valuable to me and my life, and if I don't do it, then I start to feel very strange. This summer, reading has actually really helped me a lot to kind of recenter myself and find my identity outside of studying, which is something I will continue to pursue into the future. Also, making reading your identity is about talking and sharing ideas with other people. Please, 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 if you read anything interesting, any characters, you learn lessons, share them with your friends. I'm sure they'll be happy to hear them, and perhaps they'll reciprocate on a similar idea. So share the ideas that you read, the stories that you read, the characters, even share your books with your friends. I know that sometimes when you share a book, there might be someone who you think in particular would really enjoy this book at a certain time, or they might need to hear the message. So just share it, or even join your local book club, but it doesn't have to be anything formal. It can just be the way you want to do it. And so find your identity as a reader. Those are my 4 tips that I'm using to escape my reading slump. And look, I'm still 4 books behind, but before I was 6. That's not to lose the point that reading is not about how many you're reading. It's more about the process of getting lost in a story and learning and being curious, which is really why reading is so valuable. And I think it's one of the best mediums, just because you can go back thousands of years and essentially have somebody's life wisdom distilled into this $7.99 physical thing right in front of you. So are you team Kindle or team physical books? Leave it below, and subscribe for more student tips and reading. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some serious catching up to do.